I would like to welcome Rawiri Toia, who is going to be introducing us to the Haka. And I bet that a lot of people who watch sports and have seen the New Zealand team sports have seen the Haka, but what is it actually? And we're all ears, and the floor is yours, Rawiri.
Kia ora tātou. Tuatahi ake, ka nui te mihi ki a tātou. So firstly, just greetings to everyone and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all today. The sort of focus around this thing called haka. Some call it dance, some part of performance. I'm going to show, I won't show any video because I've seen some of the presentations and it might slow things down too much, but I'll speak to it, and then in the presentation there are some links that you can go and just search for those. So this is really giving a discussion and a presentation from someone who's lived and been lucky enough to be brought up in haka and Māori performing arts. And so the work I do currently is about creating pathways for young people in Aotearoa in New Zealand to pursue haka and pursue the study of haka and the phenomenon of haka into further tertiary study and whatever study they want. So prior to the work we're doing now, it was used in ceremony and it was used in performance, but that was it. So you couldn't actually, a student wouldn't actually be able to continue their longer study in a kind of formal academic sort of way, which some students want to do. They want to be able to actually really analyze and look at haka and how haka shapes people and shapes the way they do things. And so I just want to briefly talk about the sort of origins of haka and the idea that haka is about a connection to people, and haka is related to genealogy or whakapapa from a Māori sense. The son Tāne Rore, who was the son of the sun god, Tamanui Te Rā, and Rā goes back in a lot of genealogies across the country and across the world, and Hine Raumati, the summer maiden. And so how it manifests on the earth is the shimmering and the shaking on a really hot day. And you can see the heat waves as they come along. And so that shaking and that wiri is really about the nature being captured within the person. And so there's a spiritual connection within haka between a people and the land, the people and the environment. And a key story and a key bit of knowledge that was passed on to me was, when you do the haka, you should be the embodiment of your ancestors. So it's not purely about who you are as an individual. It's about everything and everyone who's behind you that comes with you, and you are their face, you are their voice, you are their present in the now, right? And you're carrying their voice and their stories with you. That is what haka is. That is what performance is. And so you bring the strength and you bring this embodiment with you. There's a saying that says, ka tu te hika tu te wana wana. Haka is actually mediocre, and it has no spiritual essence unless it's strong, unless you can see and feel the vibrations of voice and of the person. And so your whole body's speaking when you're doing and seeing these movements. And it's about power, and it's about passion. And if your body isn't doing all of these things, well, then actually you're not giving service or presence to what that haka really is. These are, when we look at haka as a cultural phenomenon, usually you'd see haka performed in a group. Sometimes you'll see it performed individually, but as a group, you'll see and feel its power by both male and female. Even though on the sports field, at times you just see men doing the haka, that's traditionally, actually, that's not where haka is born from. Haka is born from both men and women, young and old, performing together. And so there are different types of haka for different occasions. Sometimes it's choreographed where everyone's doing the same actions. But actually, the beauty of haka is when it's free form and it's free flowing, and people interpret the language and the voice of what they have and their ancestors choose them to deliver. That's where the beauty of haka comes. The gestures that you see, the bulbous eyes, the tongue, the whetero, and all of those things are part of the channeling of your ancestors into that performance. They're actually what gives haka life. The haka is about a connection with one's ancestors, one's language, and one's culture. You will see when people perform the haka, the true essence of what it means to be connected to those who have passed on. We are the spiritual embodiment of our ancestors. Very key. It's a key message for this particular presentation. Haka is also a carrier of story. Now, whether that's political, historical, every event can be captured within haka. It's used to challenge things and to challenge people and to challenge decisions, whether it's by government or whether it's by particular tribes, whether it's about capturing something that happened historically to be able to continue to pass the story down to your children, your children's children, so on, so on. Haka and waiata and performance was the way that Indigenous people shared those stories. And it was something that would be able to be captured and shared for beyond time. And so the key qualities of haka really allow us to see the essence of what a people is and what a culture is. So nowadays you'll see haka in sport. On the rugby field, I think a lot of people will see the All Blacks in rugby, and you'll see a choreographed piece of haka where they're standing and presenting. That's one part. But more so, you will see and hear haka in schools, from our mokopuna, from our under fives, and everyone from babies through to adolescents and into adults and then into seniors. You will see them performing and presenting and capturing haka and doing it in a way which varies across the country. So there is no one haka, right? That's key. There is no one haka. There are multitudes and variations of haka which come from people, tribes, families, and they present that in the way which is true and has integrity to them. And that's the important thing about haka. That's a little bit over my 8 minutes, but essentially it's about connection. It's about the embodiment of our ancestors, and it's about sharing those stories and coming alive when you present haka. Kia ora tata.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I'm going to pass on the floor to Noema in a moment, but I'm just going to ask you one question because this is obviously out of the Maori tradition, but you also have, I think you call them Kiwis in New Zealand, people who did not grow up in the Maori tradition. How do they adapt this and how do they become part of it? Is there a difference here?
I think if, firstly, the indigenous people of Aotearoa of New Zealand, you will find that this is part of who they are, the fabric of who they are. But people who have been brought up in New Zealand, have been schooled in New Zealand, have lived in these communities, actually take on that learning, and they take on that culture as being part of sharing their connection with those people. When you go overseas, when we go overseas, the first thing that people ask is, oh, can you do the haka? And they want people to present it. Now, that comes with its caution. I'd like to say it in that way. But what we're seeing more, in particular with in our schools, is that the culture, and haka in particular, is seen as a way of connecting all of us, Kiwi, everyone who's living in Aotearoa in New Zealand, to be part of learning a language, to be part of understanding their history, their own history, and their own connection to here in Aotearoa. So haka has never been closed off to anyone who has a genuine interest and wants to have the intent to protect and care for the tradition and care for the culture. There is, of course, challenges with that when sometimes the appropriation of culture, and that takes it in a different space. And so there's more, the discussion is happening right in this space now, especially with online and cryptocurrency and the way things are happening, being built. So the ongoing discussion within Māoridom, within the country and within the culture, to best protect and to best present the best of haka and the best of the culture is, yeah, it's an ongoing discussion. It's very important in these times for Indigenous people and Indigenous culture. Kia ora.